The reason why they're trying to banish the tourist visas are because Spanish people can't afford the properties. You know who else can't afford the properties? The Brits.
UK buyers used to be the top dogs, but not anymore. Am I right?
Confusion over legalities post-Brexit. The beautiful thing about the British buyer market in Spain and their relationship with Spain is that...
Hello everyone, this is Peter from Franca de la Fuente, and today we're talking about 5 things that we have extracted from the country files, and we're talking about the British market today. So we will try to focus on 5 main things, 5 most interesting things, mainly for agents to know when they're working with British buyers. And you have noticed maybe that we are turning things around a little bit here. Usually Alfredo is the one making the intros and asking the questions, but because Alfredo, and maybe you don't know this, but you're actually British.
Alfredo Bloyd also. That's right, born in England.
Yes. So because we're talking about British buyers, we're turning things around. I will ask a few questions. Let's see if Alfredo has a few questions for me as well. So let's start then.
Let's do it.
The 5 things.
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, one thing that we actually didn't put in the country files, because the country files is more, let's say, legal technical to compare the buying procedures in different countries, but there are some other bits and pieces that we will talk about today. And on point number 1, UK buyers used to be the top dogs, but not anymore. Am I right?
Yeah. And this has an influence on many, many things. So back in 2006, 2007, around that time, don't quote me exactly on the figure, but British buyers represented, I think it was 38% of all foreign purchases in Spain, 38% were British. Therefore, the market was tailored to service the British market.
And how could you see that?
Well, that's available on the land registry.
No, but if they were so dominant,
yes,
how was the market that adjusted to the Brits?
The way property developers build their properties was based on the British tastes. Most town centers, you would find everything was geared around the British English breakfast, all that kind of stuff. Now, there's still parts of the coast
British agents
that are that, and British agents. So you had the Spanish agents catering to the Spanish domestic market, and typically your foreign agent was a British agent selling to British people. There were obviously other nationalities buying as well. It has always been, it was 38%, not 100% of the market. But really, I think the importance of that agents should know and British people should know is that they aren't the main buying thing. Now they represent, depending on the quarter, you're looking at between 8 and 10% of the market. Now, they're still the number 1 part of the market, but they are
in Spain,
in the Costa del Sol. So throughout, they're the top players, but the margin is much smaller, and there are a lot of British buyers think therefore that everything is geared for the British buyer in the marketplace, and that agents really are sort of really looking to what's happening in the UK to what they need, or what we can give you over here, and that just isn't the case anymore. And I think it helps both parties to understand that fact, because it even affects all the other parts, which I think we'll talk about, to do with their expectation of property prices.
Yeah.
So the mass market of British buyers in Spain isn't as strong as it used to be.
All right. Okay. How about point number 2?
Okay, this one I'll ask you. So this is a huge one, because in the UK, it's a traditional real estate market where one listing is given to one agent. And the reason that only one agent has it and they don't share the commissions with other agents is that the commissions are so low. And in the UK, you're looking at 1.5% on a good day, about 1% commission, whereas here we're talking 5, 6, 7%. Which allows enough margin to share with other agents. So the market in the UK is, if you look for the product, you look for the property, and then whoever the agent is of that property, that's your agent.
Yeah.
That's the end. Here it's not like that at all. But you found that, haven't you, with other buyers and other nationalities? The fact that this idea of multiple agents turning up to the same viewing can be quite perplexing to buyers, huh?
Yeah, I think that's a very common thing when we study the different nationalities and the buying procedures in other countries, that listings, usually they are exclusive. You don't list properties with several agents or agencies. And I think we spoke about the Americans. They are absolutely astounded about this, that you can actually list your property with different agents, and how does that work, etc. But for UK, definitely as well. Of course, UK buyers are not usually buying holiday homes as well in their home country. They're buying some place to
Private
live.
residence.
Yeah, private residence. So they will already know more or less which area, which city and which area they want to move to. And they have the information about the prices also available. And then they will find that area, and they will find the properties in that area. They are all available. They have a lot of different portals in the UK. Everything's the market commercially is working well in that sense. And they will speak to that agent that has that listing. And if they're not interested in that property, they will find another product, and they will go to that agency. So, of course, here, the process is very, very different. So now they have to rely on, or they don't have to, but usually you work with a buyer's agent. But I think that the psychology that I have seen from British buyers is that they might not be sure of which area they're looking for, but when they find it and they find an agent that is an expert of that area, then they can see the similarities of how the market works in the UK, and they're all right. You're my guy. You're my agent for this area.
Okay, so they're surprised to when you go with your agent to look at a view and there's another agent present who has the listing. That bit they're surprised about. So number 3 on our list of 5 is confusion over legalities post-Brexit. Now, do you want to go into that, or should I go into that?
Well, I can say a few words.
Go for it.
We don't have to get into all the different details about how long can you stay as UK citizens, etc. Do I need to apply for certain other immigration regimes and so on? I think we covered that in other videos. You have the different visas, even though they want to abolish the golden visa right now in Spain, right? But I think that they are not sure. It's a question that we usually get from UK buyers. So how does it actually work for me now? If I want to buy something here, then I want to stay, can I do that? Can I not do that? Are things changing and so on? And now with the election, of course, in UK, will it change even more? As an example, we are waiting for hopefully a new agreement between Gibraltar and Spain, which will hopefully cover a lot of things and make things easier. But that is, of course, a factor that we usually discuss with Brits, and we maybe don't with other nationalities.
So British people, generally speaking, post-Brexit are not entirely clear on what they can or cannot do as far as living in Spain, having a holiday in Spain, buying a property in Spain. And it's a murky environment that has been left for real estate agents and law firms to do their best to explain it because of the silence of the authorities on the subject. Is that fair?
And it's not so complex. It's not very difficult. I mean, we can quite easily explain the situation to them. But as an example, I actually had a question from a UK buyer, potential buyer. Am I even allowed to buy a property in Spain? Can I actually do that? Of course you can. So, but that's just an example of how this might affect, the buyer behavior.
Okay, it's perfect. So number 4.
Is this my turn?
It's your turn.
Okay. So back to point number 1 then, actually, expectations of prices being lower than they maybe are.
Yeah, this is related to point 1 because the industry was basically built around the British budget, the British wants and likes and so on. And prices, one thing that we found, particularly in the last few years and more so recently, is if we take areas like the Costa del Sol, there's a generalized expectation by typical British buyers, the mass, that prices are still at the very low prices that they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I would say this is something I'm hearing across the board, both from agents, property portals, and people that I know that want to buy here, is there's this idea that you can still find a 2-bedroom apartment for 125 grand somewhere that isn't in the mountains or off to the side somewhere. And so a lot of agencies, they when they're dealing with British buyers, they're a little bit surprised or almost find it ridiculous. The expectation of the British buyer will be, yes, I'm looking for a 3-bed villa with a pool, not too far from the beach, for 350,000, please. Can you find me some options? And it's almost like a joke amongst agents, like saying, why do these British buyers expect the prices to be so low? But if you take somewhere like Honda, which has been massively popular with British buyers, I've got a close friend that bought a repossession property maybe 10 years ago, maybe a bit longer, from the past, so post the 2008 crash, for less than 100,000. Be lucky to get something like that for 250, and that's a big jump. And so I think agents need to understand that there will probably be an expectation that prices will be much lower than they actually are, and then you have to try and delicately manage that process.
Yeah, but don't you also think that there's something we can do? By we, I mean this market, the real estate market in Spain, and again, talking about the transparency and access to information. Because if you, as a foreign buyer, if you enter in this market, it could be, let's say, a few portals, the prices are correct, and you actually, when you're looking at a property, you know where it is, because you have the location of that property available as well. Usually you don't, right? You have to make some kind of detective work to see where it is actually. So people don't really know, because the information is not good enough for them to actually make an estimation of this market. I think we can do things much better here on our side, and then of course that hopefully will make it easier for potential buyers to understand, well, Costa del Sol is not actually for me because there's nothing available for 200. I have to look somewhere else.
Yeah, and there are plenty of cases where I know agencies that have offices in the Costa del Sol and offices in Murcia or Costa Blanca South that are having to send a lot of their Costa del Sol buyers, British buyers that want to buy in the Costa del Sol, over to buy over there because the prices are a little bit more realistic still. So I think that's just a reality. I think you're right. One of the things that we just had 2 or 3 years of record sales, blah, blah, blah. It's well documented on the Costa del Sol and throughout the coasts with foreign buyers. Now, stock levels are low. And the first thing to go when there's a shopping spree is the great value stuff, right? Now, great value can be a 10 million euro villa that's sold for 6 million. But what I'm talking about is in the mass market pricing sort of thing. And so what's left on the property portals, which are probably the main places that people look for properties in the UK, they're seeing a lot of stock that's either been sold already that is still on the portals, that's being used as a lead magnet by the agent. They're seeing stuff that is still on the portals that just hasn't been taken off. Maybe it was a free listing from back in the day or something like that. And so they're getting an idea of stuff that's available that isn't available.
Yeah.
And then when they inquire on that to the agent, that's their expectation of budget. Yeah. They say, well, I want something like that 350,000 euro villa, please, in that area. Do you have anything similar? And they're like, well, the nearest thing I have is up in the hills with the goats. So that also, goes to what you're saying. We kind of have a bit more transparency. They can see real sale prices, so they can be informed on that. And if the rest of us in the industry behave a little bit better and don't do these lead magnets and things, that it'll be better for the buyer and the buyer. But I think they do need, as a market, we do need to educate on what the prices are. So that leads on to the final point, the fifth point, and it's kind of linked to it. So there's a theme running through it. And that is there's British as well as some other nationalities, but British really do, because of their previous dominance as a foreign buyer market, they really do expect there to be a mirror effect in terms of whatever's happening in the UK with their cost of living crisis, their property market, borrowing costs, all those sort of things. They really expect it to be happening here. So they go, well, if the property prices are going through a change there, they're probably going through a change here, and they're expecting that sort of parity between the two. And the concerns that they might have there, they're expecting them to have the same concerns here, and therefore prices to be adjusted accordingly. And it just isn't the case. It just isn't reflected. A lot of those concerns that they have are just not concerns here, particularly in this international buyer community.
But again, though, then of course, as a broker, you will talk about this. You will talk about the prices, and they have the client's expectations on prices in different areas, etc. And that is a responsibility that you have as an agent, or if they ask a lawyer as well. But I have sensed, and maybe not specifically with just with Brits, but with other nationalities as well, even though we try to inform them about the prices, because the market itself and the information is not really, good enough, then they still can have that loss of faith, or loss of that they don't really rely on that information. I'm telling you that the prices are what they are in this area. Yeah, I know, but there are some properties available. I have seen them.
I've seen them.
So I don't know if you're actually correct about this, but if we would have true, actual information about prices and where the prices in areas, have that information better available, I think they will not doubt the information given by their agents.
Totally agree. I think perhaps the final point, and this is something that I can ask you on this, because there are definite similarities to your home market in Sweden, is one of the beautiful things about the British market is it goes up and down based on whatever's happening in the UK. We know that. The beautiful thing about the British buyer market in Spain and their relationship with Spain is that their love for Spain doesn't seem to be affected by these things.
Yeah.
It's despite the hurdles, Brexit, and whatever else you could throw in their way, they still want to buy here.
Yeah.
So, and there's the thing that we observed during COVID, there's a thing that we're observing now, and I think we're going to continue to observe, and that is whenever the British market goes quiet, it's not a reflection of their interests. It's a reflection of whatever circumstances they have at home. And this is something that comes from a Swedish expression, I think maybe you could explain, called the ketchup effect.
Ketchup effect then. Yeah. Well, nobody's buying, and then suddenly a few, and then everyone else, That's more or less the explanation to that. But maybe a bit of a philosophical point on this. I was thinking about this morning. I read an article yesterday. The government now, the Spanish government, they are trying to implement the changes about the golden visa, to abolish it basically, and also to limit touristical licenses through the new housing law that was implemented a year and a half ago, something like that. To put it very simple, the Spanish government, they don't like touristical license. They don't want Spanish properties to be used for commercial purposes. That's it, the end of story. And they're just now trying technically, legally, to find a way to do that. That could be a conflict between private ownership and your neighbors, right? So we'll see how it goes. I'm not too sure that they can actually have an success in doing that. But as you say, it's a beautiful country. The weather is amazing. Now the infrastructure is starting to be better as well. People will want to move to Spain. I mean, they will not, and that desire will not stop. The situation in your home country could be that you're not able to do it right now, so you're waiting. At some point, you will act on that desire. And that is not, that is part of the globalization of the world. The people are relocating to places. They can work from home. They can even more easily start an activity in a different country. People will move around basically on this beautiful earth, right? And Spain will be one of the places they would like to move to. Now, the government can try to stop this, so they can make it a little bit more difficult. And some countries, some nationalities, people from certain countries might not be able to do it just right now, but they will come. So you can worry maybe about what will happen with the golden visa, what will happen with the touristic license, how will that affect the market. But nobody, that's my opinion, I don't think nobody can stop people from having the desire to to this beautiful country. And so it's just a matter of time. And for the Brits as well, maybe they'll come back to the 38%, we will know. But they will want to buy properties in Spain.
As a final thought, it just occurred to me, Wes, you were explaining that thing about the tourist visas. The reason why they're trying to banish the tourist visas are because Spanish people can't afford the properties. You know who else can't afford the properties? The Brits.
Yeah.
So if they lower the price, the Brits will come flying back in. So, careful what you wish for.